Welcome to an episode of the award-winning podcast Art Insiders New York. My name is Anders Holst. The theme of the podcast is New York, with a focus on behind-the-scenes conversations with fascinating people who are making an impact in the world of art, design, and architecture. Helen Toomer is the director of PHOTOFAIRS New York, which held its inaugural edition at the Javits Center this past September. The mission is to present the state-of-the-art view of visual culture, to explore the diverse and rapidly evolving landscape of image making, from intersections with digital art and film to the medium's next frontiers, including virtual reality, augmented reality, and AI-driven art. In this interview, Helen talks about her excitement for a photo fair that exists in the space between the traditional archetype of photo exhibitions and the typical art fair, a photo fair that celebrates the incredibly vast and diverse medium of photography. On this episode of the podcast, we talk about photography as an art form and how visual communication is very much at the core of how we interact with each other today. Helen also dives into the effects of the democratization of photography with the dawn of the smartphone and gives a valuable recommendation to those of us who are passionate about photography. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So you are the director of PHOTOFAIRS New York. Is this the first photo fair in New York ever?
Yes.
It is, right?
It was, yes. It was the first. It was somebody said it's like me having my second baby. You know, it was like it was a great event, and it was wonderful to be able to produce such a high quality event and showcase so many incredible artists and galleries in the heart of New York City, which is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Do we need another photo fair? I read some articles about this, and they said, that you're very daring to do this in this context or in this economy. But it went well.
Yeah, it went brilliantly. Thank you very much. I think that's always a question, isn't it? Do we need more fairs? Do we need more galleries? There's always the question of, do we need more? I think with this, anyway, I'm a maximalist, so I'm always believe more is more. But aside from that, yes, this is why I got really excited about this, is because New York didn't have a fair that was fully focused on and celebrating contemporary photography and new media. So I wouldn't have kind of come back and committed blood, sweat and tears to launching it if I didn't think it was needed. And the reception was joyous. Anders, I suppose it's like, when you're planning something, in your mind what you're doing, right? You're like, I know I'm going to do this. I know logistically, I know how to make it happen. I know how to bring the awareness. We've got the team, we've got the galleries, we've got the artists, but I'm the only one that knows all of it, right? So this tiny head was holding a lot. So when the doors finally opened, I was, just before a party, you're like, oh my goodness, no one's going to come, fear, you're like, I did everything, no one's going to come. So I had that moment because I always get very nervous before an event, and people came and people loved it and people thanked us for filling this niche, I guess, from artists to collectors to curators. So it was a beautiful convening.
Yes. So what intrigues me about this, there has been other photo fairs in Shanghai some years ago and also in San Francisco, but this is different. It's photography, but it is photography in a different perspective. You said somewhere that usually photo fairs is a one note, and you would like to have a symphony, many different notes. Yeah. So explain to our listeners then, the approach is more from a sort of an integrative perspective.
Well, I think this is one of the age-old questions, and is of, what constitutes a photograph, or what constitutes a fine art photograph. I think photography in itself is an incredibly vast medium, and considering all the tools that photographers and artists have used to create images. When I made that comment about the one note versus the symphony, I was thinking really from kind of like an art market perspective, and kind of from the general audience's perception of, what is a photograph. Or if you go to an art fair, you predominantly see paintings. And if you go to a photography focus fair, there can be a huge number of black and white photographs. And that's kind of the archetype, right, of the image. And so when I got really excited about this fair, it was because it was celebrating the diversity of the medium and really thinking that photography and lens-based art is about image making. So thinking about images and this thread through photography, through new media, through technology, and using the tools and celebrating artists that are pushing the boundaries of the medium. But also there's a lot of artists right now who are looking back to techniques that were used hundreds of years ago. And so I think it's an interesting mix.
I see. Now that you had time to digest the photo fairs in September, what are your lingering feelings here? What are the lessons learned, things to do in a different way?
So the feelings are, I guess, goes back to that more, always wanting more. Well, first and foremost, it was relief and validation. Relief that we were able to build something that felt like it was needed at that time. And that another analogy I use is that it was like spreading seeds. And then in the years to come, we'll see the flowers growing. So I feel proud that we built a strong foundation. Lessons learned, oh my goodness, there are always so many lessons to be learned, because, part of being the director of the fair is that I would say think about, but more like obsess about every single detail. So that's down to the marketing, down to the how people are greeted when they buy their tickets, down to the signage, how people are welcomed into the fair, what the lounges look like. So there's lots of kind of details that we know will be tweaked, but really it's about building upon the foundation. So we had some incredible artists and galleries, and we want to expand that slightly. We had some wonderful partners like the Baxter Street Camera Club of New York, the Center of Photography in Woodstock, Jamaica Art Society, Fotografiska, and then thinking about how we can engage them and their audience all year round as well before September next year. Yeah. So there's always lots to do, Anders. I've never sat idle for a minute.
I can imagine that. So you had 56 exhibitors from 20 cities around the world. You had thematic and group exhibitions. A third was devoted to solo artist presentations. And you also had an award. So can you tell us a little bit about the award that you have at the PHOTOFAIRS New York? Yeah,
so we initiated an incredible partnership with the 21C Museum Hotels. Their founders, Lauren Lee and Steve, are amazing, and their chief curator, Alice Grace Stites, is like a long-term friend of mine. They created this amazing organization where they have hotels all around America, and they have essentially like museum class exhibitions within the hotels that are free for anybody to look at. So Alice is always curating these different exhibitions. So we basically inaugurated the 21C Acquisition Prize, where Alice, Steve, and Laura Lee came to the fair before it opened, and they were supposed to acquire one work for the prize, but they ended up acquiring 3 because they loved it so much and they were really, really excited. So we're going to be continuing that. It's like, I think as a fair, it's not just about the event, it's about continuing those connections with a broader community outside the fair.
Where are you in the process of planning the next year's photo fairs? Because there's going to be one, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah, we're excited to return to the Javits Center in September 2024. I just got back from Toronto, visiting galleries there. I've just been in Paris and London and obviously New York. So I'm already thinking about the next edition, what artists, installations we might want, what programming partners we might want, what sponsors might come on board. So it's really, I'm always thinking about, what we can do. I think that's sometimes the misconception of people who don't maybe like work in events, because I sometimes get the question like, what do you do all year? And I'm like, I wish I was like sat, on a beach, like drinking a margarita all day, like reading books. Alas, no, it is work all the time.
Yeah. So how does that process work? So galleries, of course, they are interested in exposing their artists to you. So you have incoming traffic, and then, of course, you have your own strategy and ideas and so on.
Yeah. So we had an incredible selection committee. We had Putri Tan from Gagosian. We had Amanda Colson from Turn Gallery, Nick Fahey from Fahey Klein, and Sebastian from Rolf Art in Buenos Aires. So it was a great mix. I mean, the other thing about this is you can't do anything alone. It really is a collaborative effort. And the selection committee was a great extension of that. So it was really beneficial to be able to have their eyes and ears on the applications while also, promoting the fair to their colleagues. I mean, I think that's the other thing about the fair as well. It's like, you said earlier, it's about you're always learning. And even though I know what I'm doing in terms of running fairs, I'm always learning. And I think my job is really to bring experts in their field together to create an educational environment. You mentioned in an interview that you had hung up your fair hat. Now, what happened? I did, Anders.
This is your fourth, right? Fourth.
Oh my God, I don't even know how many. I feel like it's in my blood, Anders. Well, the joke is, so my husband, his company, Space Design and Productions, they design and produce art fairs all over the States too. And we actually met when we worked at an art fair together 100 years ago. So we've realized that our poor kid, Harry, doesn't have a chance. He's just going to have art fairs on the brain. Like we're going to Miami in a couple of Eric builds oversees the build of the beautiful Untitled tent on the beach in Miami. And Harry, who's now 5, just thinks it's normal to be like running around a little go-kart while the tent's being built and there's cranes everywhere. Sorry, but yes, I thought I had hung my hat up. I was up here in the woods in upstate New York and focused on our residency program, which supports women and families, and Upstate Art Weekend and Art Mamas. And I was not looking for another role in my already busy schedule. But a friend reached out, Yayoi reached out, and she said, "Hey, I was talking to this guy. He's interested in starting an art fair. Photo fair." And I was like, okay. And I always take these calls, Anders, because, I don't know. I always like to be of help, so maybe I know someone who can help if it's not me. Cause I was like, no, this is not me. So anyway, I was actually in Miami at the time. I had a Zoom call and I was like, I'm going to be 2 minutes. I'm like, this is going to be short and sweet. And, I was speaking to Scott Gray, who's the CEO and founder of PHOTOFAIRS, a terribly nice British man. And by the end of the conversation, I hung up and I ran out to Eric, my husband. I was like, oh no, I think I really want to do this. And my husband understands I'm a bit of a tornado. So he was like, okay, let's take a minute and think about it. But it was really because of the niche, the concept, the organization's commitment to photography, and really celebrating the medium in Shanghai and launching it in New York. And I just clicked with him and realized that he entrusted me, which was also a big thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
If we then think about photography as an art form, and I think this is really the core of what you're doing, when you're saying that the PHOTOFAIRS will present the state-of-the-art view of visual culture. You talk about photography and its connection to technology, for instance, AI. Can you take a few examples of where photography is sort of moving in other domains, technology or materiality or anything, so that people can understand where this train is going?
Yeah. Well, so I think it's interesting. I don't know whether it's the train is going like in the future tense. I feel like the train is already the train has left the building, right? It's just, we are choosing when to get on and off, I guess. So I'm full of metaphors today, Anders. And photography predominantly has been a medium in which many tools have been used. Even if you just think of a camera in itself as a tool, right? And then you think about the dark room, and then you think about the computer, and then, an AI, I think, is the tool that people are using and playing with now, because it's the new kid on the block. We also see contemporary artists who are looking back and making tintypes. So I know that, AI can be scary. That's a much larger conversation. But I think when I'm thinking about it, just specifically for PHOTOFAIRS, I'm really thinking about it as a tool, and I'm really interested in having the conversations around it. I think this is something that is another reason why I'm driven to produce the fair, is to create a space, a centralized space of convening that we can have these conversations, from people who are pro AI to people who think, who are nervous about it. It's similar to, when Instagram came out and people weren't sure about using it, or going even further back to like when galleries didn't have websites. I think there's always the fear of the new. And I think that, we wanted to be able to work with galleries and artists and bring in specialists to have these conversations, so there wouldn't be so much fear around it. Because once you speak about it, it feels a little less alien, I guess. And I'll just bring up like one example. There's an artist called Sarp who showed with Tara von Lintel Gallery. And he uses, my goodness, I listen to him and my head explodes. Like he knows so much. But one of the things that he created these AI Polaroids. So you look at them and you think, that's a Polaroid that was taken, as we know a traditional Polaroid to be taken, but it was not. It was all generated by AI. There was these exquisite photographs of these gorgeous queer people. And what he said is he was like, he said he typed into like chatbot, like, oh, queer man in Turkey. And then what came up was was not a true to image. It was kind of a very kind of like cliche, kind of like in a certain box. And so he was like, no, this is not how these people should be represented. So he has gone in and worked to make sure that representation is aligned with reality. So that, I mean, even that conversation alone is incredible.
Yeah.
You have to get him on the show. He'll blow your mind.
Oh, yeah. What was his name again?
His name's Saab. I'll send you all the details. He's brilliant.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. So the train has left the building, as you said. But it is fascinating when you think about how central photography is in our way of communicating today. I mean, photography has been sort of democratized in a way so that everybody now uses the medium and feel very comfortable with it. So what are the effects of that on a broader scale? I mentioned to you before in my notes here that I sent to Polly that I have some photography friends in Sweden, and they're very, very extremely talented. They've done books and stuff like that. The problem is they can't get any job any longer because the high end of the photo business has been invaded by all these, iPhone. Instead of having a photographer doing it the right way, artistically and stuff like that, they say, well, take an assistant can go out and take those photos. I'm simplifying here a little bit.
Yeah.
But do you see any effects like that when you look at photography and how photography, what role photography plays in the world of business?
Well, for me, I really, when we talk about in those realms, really my lane is contemporary art, right? So that's like where I'm super focused.
Yeah.
And with those regards, I'm going to draw some parallels in that I think we're very much, images, like we're visual people, right? We're saturated all the time. One of the reasons I love Instagram is because I am better with images than I am with words. Like I'm that person that you'll send me a long text message and I'll send you an emoji back and a photo, like it's that kind of thing. And I think what's happening in the art world, because fine art photography and contemporary art is very different to photographers taking commercial photos. There's definitely some crossover. Like Elliot and Eric, they had an incredible solo show with us from Spinello Gallery in Miami, and their works were divine, so beautiful. And then they also, take pictures of they photographed Bad Bunny for like a Time magazine. So there can be that crossover.
Yeah.
But I think that in terms of the democratization of it, what we're seeing now is more artists are working or playing with photography and new media and technology. So I think all these new tools are giving more license or availability to artists to play more. So I know I'm dodging your question, but I think it's a difficult one for me to answer because it's like I always think about it in terms of artists. And now I don't think artists are necessarily boxed in as a photographer or as a painter. They're multidisciplinary artists who might make a video one day, who might do a painting, who might do a screen print. And I think that is the interesting thing for me at this time.
Another dimension that I learned about when I was doing research for this interview was that the problem with photography sometimes can be related to editions and what are you really buying and how many editions are there, and so the uniqueness of the art in itself. Now, with the development that you are talking about here, with photography sort of merge into other areas like technology or AI or things like that, does that mean that specific problem will diminish?
I think it's interesting that you said it's a problem, because I don't see editions as a problem, because it's a way that people have worked with photographs and prints and videos. And actually, back to the democratization, it actually can be more accessible for people to acquire editions because they aren't always necessarily as high priced as unique. I think when you're referring to like it being a problem is when the gallerist or the artist is maybe a little opaque around the editions. So, and obviously we don't work with artists and galleries like that. We work with amazingly organized and caring gallerists and artists who create set editions. So say, you know, an edition of 5 with 1 artist proof, and that's what is sold. And after that is it. Yeah. And so it's again, sorry, I'm harping on about the problem because I don't see it as a problem. It's just about transparency and about the understanding that you are buying a photograph. But like, for example, like, you know, I would love to own a Mickalene Thomas painting and I cannot, but maybe, just maybe one day I'll be able to buy a Mickalene print. So it's, you know, and then that, but you know, and then God, it's another big question that goes back to what is value to you? Like, what does it mean to own a quote unquote unique work? What does that look like? Is it on a TV screen? Is it on your computer? Yeah. Is it on the wall? Sorry, that like raised a lot of questions.
No, it's really great. No, I was actually there was an art dealer who was quoted in one of the articles that I read that the medium is still hindered by the perception of editions, multiplicity, and reproducibility and stuff like that. So my question is, when photography then merge into other areas, the edition concept is still valid?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the editions will always be there, as will unique works, but I think it's ultimately up to the artist about how they want their work to be viewed and to be sold. You know, there's a great artist. She's such a badass, Delphine Diallo, who shows with Fisheye Gallery. She had a solo show with us. Her work is incredible. She takes photographs like of herself. She uses other like found pieces of like collage. She uses some AI. And so the works that she creates are completely unique. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that one day she might not like move into editions. It's just, but you know up front that it is a unique work. So I guess that's making me think more now. That's, I guess, you know, one of my roles as somebody who is organizing a fair like that is to make sure that is easily accessible and understood for when people are coming in, you know, that people understand that this is one of 5, or this is a unique work, or this is one of 2. And we try and make all of that as transparent, because a lot of the art world can be pretty opaque.
Yeah. So let's talk about you then for a change. Helen, you spent 15 years of experience across commercial and non-profit sectors with a track record of launching new organizations and convening the art community. And you started, we said this is your 4th fair. You have a background at Ramsey Fairs, but we should talk maybe about the Stone Leaf Retreat and the activities that are connected to that community.
Stone Leaf Retreat is essentially an extension of our home. We're just outside of Kingston, New York, kind of 2.5 hours north of New York City. And we started a residency in 2017 that is focused on supporting women and families. So we've had over 50 artists come through since 2017, and we've had about a dozen family residencies. And it was important for us to provide like a safe space for artists to come and be or create kind of whatever serves them in the moment. And it's been a wonderful gift. Yeah.
And connected to that is Art Mamas Alliance.
Yes. So I became a parent to my little monster Harry in 2018, and the whole experience of trying to have a child and then having a child was a roller coaster, to say the least, Anders. So I reached out to my magical friend Katie Donahue. She had a little boy 6 months after I did, and we just talked about how honestly kind of brutal it was. Like, just, I feel like sometimes, like, especially motherhood gets glossed over. Like, you are going to have this magical little baby who's just going to come out and look cute, and you're going to take Instagram pictures and everything's going to be happy. And then you're like, oh my goodness, this child was ripped from my body. I cannot sleep. Like, I cannot breastfeed, So anyway, Katie and I got talking. And then when the pandemic hit, we started a weekly Zoom call for parents and we were online every Monday for an hour. Sometimes 5 people, sometimes 20 people showed up, and then more and more people heard about it, and we opened it up. We have over 300 members now. And basically it's just a place where people can share and listen and talk about the trials and tribulations that it is to be a parent today.
But also you have residency, and people can come there and work as artists.
So we do a joint residency. So here at Stoneleaf, so we have a residency that's just for the art mamas. So we have 3 art mamas at a time. So they come without their family and they're able to connect with other artists. And then we also have a family residency where they can bring their kids, caregivers, family, whatever that means to them. So
that's incredible. You have a very broad background. You've also been lecturing on art fairs and professional development at universities. Your passion for the artists really shines through in everything that you do. And you said you were going to add artist whisperer to your LinkedIn account. So how does that work then? So this seems to be some of the central points in your passion for the art is the meeting with the artists and to create these communities and these events. You said it's almost like building a village.
Interesting. Yeah, that's it was funny because it was Sarah Cascone from ArtNet when she said the term art whisperer, and I laughed because I hadn't heard it before, and I like that idea, but I'm also like not here to tame artists, like I feel like and they shouldn't be tamed either. But I think that for me is always the thread that runs through the artists. And somebody asked me, I remember somebody asked me like, what was my favorite thing about what I do? And I remember saying it's the artists. And they said, well, that's strange because normally people would say art. It's about the art. And I was like, well, it is, but like I find it's the magic of the people. It's the magic of the artists. How they think, what they create, why they create it. And, there's a lot of magic there. And I think that also comes from me being a failed artist. Like I very much am like I'm an organizer, so organize and support where I can, but to be in proximity of, artists who are making magic and who are also, truth tellers. I think that's always for me, that's the power of art, is that through their visual languages, they can convey incredible narratives, stories, truths. It's something that we look back on as history. And yeah, to be part of that is magic. I mean, who wouldn't love that? Right?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's magical when you hang out with people like that. So what are you doing right now? Are you working on PHOTOFAIRS New York next, or is it just a mixture, a collage of various projects on that desk in front of you?
No, I'm definitely focused on PHOTOFAIRS New York next year. I'm planning to go to Paris in a couple of weeks, and very much thinking about our programming and like our partners. I have great meetings set up. So yeah, I'm always thinking about that, and luckily, I'm sat here and I'm looking out on this window at Stoneleaf. So I'm super fortunate, like looking at all the different beautiful colors of the leaves and the trees, and thinking about the residency for next year and Upstate Art Weekend. And tonight I have an Art Mamas Zoom call. So it's a mixture, but it's a great one.
See, you mentioned that Upstate Art Weekend. When is that?
So that's in July every year, in the Hudson Valley in the Catskills.
Okay.
And this was something that came out of seeing a pattern here, a want and need to create a big event to bring people together.
Yeah, exactly. There is a pattern here.
Yeah, I really should talk to my therapist about that. But yeah, it basically, it kind of started from an arts admin perspective. When we moved up here in 2017, it was kind of really getting to know the area. Like, where was Deer Beacon? Where's Art Omai? Where's Magazino? Where's Storm King? What side of the river are they on? And I would put together all these different itineraries. And I was like, wow, there's not kind of one unifying moment, I guess. This. So in 2020, I created Upstate Art Weekend, and we had 23 organizations, and last year I think we had over 130.
Oh my God.
So it goes back to the magic. There's so much magic here, and it's just a chance to shine a spotlight on it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Helen, thank you so much. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to communicate to our listeners?
I was thinking about like when we were talking about the fear, or like the fear of the new, and also like the transparency, and sometimes the opaqueness of the art world. I think why I really appreciate this conversation, and why I appreciate you kind of getting into to doing this, is like you were saying, like you want to like learn, and by having conversations with people, that's like kind of like an incredible way to learn, and to be part of something. And I think I would very much like for some of the barriers to be omitted for people who really are interested in art, and encourage them to go to the galleries. There are so many incredible galleries that are open 5+ days a week, that are free, that who are showcasing works by our next generation of artists. And I'm always surprised about how many people don't go. So I would encourage people to go to as many galleries as possible and talk to the person behind the counter, and then come and visit us upstate, and then at PHOTOFAIRS New York next September. Yeah.
That's a beautiful note to end on. And thank you so much, Helen, for taking your time and for doing such a great job. And we look forward to PHOTOFAIRS New York next year.
Thank you.
It'll be in September then, right?
Yes, perfect. At the Javits Center, super central.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, and you're more than welcome upstate next summer as well.
I would love that. My girlfriend loves Hudson. I'm more of a beach person, but I will definitely come up. Maybe in July.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much for taking the time.
All right, take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. This is Art Insiders New York, and my name is Anders Holst. If you enjoyed this episode and have family and friends who love New York and are passionate about the world of art design and architecture, please spread the word by following us on artinsidersnewyork.com or liking us on our Facebook page, Art Insiders New York. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. This episode was produced by UOM LLC, copyright 2023.